All right, Sue, we've got a rapid fire interview for you today. What's a problem you see in the collaboration space? And do you have any tips to avoid or overcome them?
As somebody who identifies as an introvert, the word networking strikes fear into my heart. I have struggled with imposter syndrome my entire life, and it still affects me today. So getting started doing collaborations was intimidating. And I believe I'm not the only person that feels this way. I am a developmental editor who specializes in character-driven fiction, which just means that I help writers create a journey of personal growth for their characters that feels satisfying for readers. And through speaking to writing groups about different editing and writing techniques, I found that if I just got out of my own way, I could genuinely make a difference in exactly the ways I wanted. When I first started trying to network and collaborate with other creators, I had so many doubts. Am I good enough to partner with these people with massive audiences? Am I experienced enough to meet their standards? This is a big challenge for people who, like me, want to make a difference, but are terrified of being judged or criticized or even canceled for saying or doing the wrong thing. Don't get me wrong. When it comes to collaborations, I still get nervous. I still worry that I'm not good enough or experienced enough or successful enough to offer anything to other creators. But the mental trick that gets me through this is focusing on my audience. What will bring them value? What will make them smile? How can I help them bridge the gap between where they are right now and where they want to be? And when I find a collaboration partner who ticks all those boxes, I remind myself that their decision to say yes or no is their own. And just like I can say no, they can say no, and that's okay. I want any partnerships I participate in to be equally beneficial to both of us as creators and our audiences. Somebody had to remind me that it was okay to say no. I remember thinking, I can say no. That's right. I don't have to like everybody. Just because they're an expert in my space doesn't mean I have to like them or even want to work with them. If it's not a good fit for me, it's probably not a good fit for them either. So that takes a lot of stress off thinking about it that way.
Sue, what's different about the way you collaborate?
Just like with everything in my life, my collaboration style is super picky. And it took me a long time to just be okay with that. Being selective matters. And as bad as it can feel to say no, being selective is healthy for my business and my sanity. And learning to say no to opportunities that aren't right has been and continues to be one of my biggest challenges. So the thing that's different about my collaboration style is that I'm looking for very specific elements in the brands and creators that I partner with. My audience is special to me. I teach fiction writers to create stories that resonate so strongly with readers that we remember them forever. And part of my teaching process is cultivating an environment where my audience always feels inspired, motivated, and capable, even when they're far from the finish line, like so many of our manuscripts are. I'm not interested in bulking up my email list with names for the sake of numbers. I'm looking for authors who want to be in my space, who don't mind taking a few minutes to read a lengthy email because that's what I write, and who are hungry for the topics and tone of the information I teach. So when it comes to collaboration, tone and style and the overall feel of a creator's brand are the absolute most important thing to me. More than subscriber numbers, more than affiliate commissions, I only partner with people I believe will bring something valuable to my audience, especially if it's something they need that I cannot provide. My biggest advice for content creators who are trying to find their collaboration process and create their system is to follow your gut. What do your instincts say? Putting the right people for your brand in front of your audience is what will get your subscribers excited about opening your emails.
Okay, what appeals to you about collaboration and why?
We talk a lot about audience sharing and how collaborations are a great way to reach new people you might not have found otherwise. And that is definitely a perk of partnering with other creators. But what I personally love most about collaborating with other creatives is making heartfelt connections for myself. I teach fiction writers how to create stories that readers will remember forever. So I want to give my writers the tools to motivate and educate them to follow their own dreams, which means I have personally developed a style and branding that focuses on inspiration and knowledge processes. So I look for collaborations with creators who have a similar style to mine. Being a content creator, no matter what your niche or what platform you use, can be lonely. And honestly, it can just feel like you're shouting into a void. I'm not somebody who likes to talk at people. I like to have meaningful conversations conversations with people. So one of the most challenging parts of being an online based writing coach is finding ways to make genuine connections and feel like I'm being heard. And the right collaboration can fill that need in ways I didn't expect. There's something really special about planning an event with a fellow creator and realizing that you have more in common than just your subject matter and that you're not alone in your fears and doubts and worries. Collaboration gives me energy and it challenges me to up my personal standards even more. And it also kind of comes back to what we talked about a little earlier with imposter syndrome. Finding those people makes you realize there's nothing wrong with you. What you're doing is right and fine for you, and that you're finding your space, you're dialing it in. So it's this sort of ecosystem of happiness, if you think about it.
Who is your dream partner?
My perfect collaboration partner is a fellow creator who works in an adjacent space to mine and has a crossover audience. So we don't offer exactly the same services, but our audiences need both types of services. I teach story smithing to fiction authors, which just means that I show them how to find the emotional gaps in their stories before working with a developmental editor. So a dream collaboration for me would be someone who has an audience of fiction writers who want to improve their stories, but the creator is not a developmental editor, because that's what I am. So maybe they're a cover artist or an email specialist, or they raise awareness of a very specific type of diversity or implicit bias. But while finding the right partner to hit just that right crossover audience space is important, the most important thing about finding the right partner for collaboration is the atmosphere and style of our brands, and to make sure that those align. I'm not a dude bro kind of seller. I don't use traditional marketing techniques. I find them kind of slimy, and I'm smart enough to see through those tactics. So I have to assume that my audience is smart enough too as well. I just talk to people the way I would want to be talked to. I wouldn't want to collaborate with someone who uses techniques that I find gross. I want to partner with creators who think and feel like I do and approach their businesses with that same nuanced mentality. My dream collaboration partner is someone who has something essential to teach my audience that I can't personally give them, and introduces themselves and their expertise in a way that parallels the energy and guiding principles of my own brand.
I love your answers. This is reiterating why I collaborate with people like you.
That's so wonderful to hear. It's so nice to hear that you're not alone, right? We're not the only ones thinking this. And how many years has it taken us to get to this point where we're like just okay in the fact that we're different?
Do you have a story about a collaborative partnership that transformed your life and really converted you to collaboration?
I think you and I met through the Summit in a Box program, if I remember correctly. So we were both focused on hosting a summit of our own. And the topic I was so excited about really digging into ended up being something that my audience wasn't really ready for, or that maybe I wasn't prepared to lead. And I realized through the process of setting up my summit and contacting speakers and creating that schedule that what I was trying to do didn't make sense for my audience and for myself. Just about the same time, another opportunity came along that I decided to accept, even though I didn't really think I had time to do it. I was invited to speak at someone else's summit, which meant creating an entirely new webinar that I had to make the time for. When I made the very difficult decision to put my own summit on hold, maybe indefinitely, I focused all that creative energy into making something new and unique for this other summit that I hadn't done before. And it turned out to be one of the best decisions I have made in my professional life, both not doing my own summit and participating in someone else's when I didn't think I had the time. Through all the stress and doubts and fears of trying to pull off my own summit with an edgy topic, I realized that I don't have to be the one in charge to make a difference. I can be part of other people's spaces and still bring my big energy and thoughtful, nuanced style of teaching. So from that experience, being a speaker in someone else's summit when I didn't really think I had the time, I made other connections and I set up other collaborations I would never have even considered. And those partnerships are giving me experience in that space that I wasn't ready for when I initially tried to host my own summit. Being part of collaborations with the right creators for my brand has infused my business with energy and potential and hope. And all of that comes through in my messaging, which just makes my own work and my own brand even stronger. There's a lot of pressure to, it'll happen. It'll work. Just put it out there. Don't be afraid. And I totally agree with that. But I do think for me, I didn't have the topic right. Like it just wasn't feeling right. And it comes back to trusting your gut. And I'm really glad that I did, because if I had tried to go through it, it probably would have been fine, but I wouldn't have had the same opportunities that I have now. So sometimes the thing that you think you want is not actually the thing that you need.
I have one more question for you, and that is just, what is one piece of advice about absolutely anything?
I'm a story smith, which is a developmental editor for fiction stories, and I teach authors how to find the emotional gaps in their own stories. I do that through creating courses and hosting cross-promotion webinars and workshops with other creators. I can force myself to be an extrovert for very short sprints of time, but at heart, I am an introvert. And speaking, no matter how satisfying when it's over, is always uncomfortable in the moment. So here's my advice for anyone who isn't naturally comfortable being in the spotlight, but needs to record videos or give live speeches in front of an audience. Practice, practice, practice. It's going to feel ridiculous, but do it anyway. Write yourself a script and practice those words until you can say them without looking at them. Practice those words until they roll off your tongue naturally. Then, when you deliver that presentation or speech or interview, give yourself that script to look at as a safety net. And because you have practiced those lines so much, your brain will compensate for any nervousness by reciting from memory. Or if you do completely blank out, you will have that script in front of you, and you'll feel comfortable enough to ad-lib until you can get back on track. So this works better for Zoom and recorded things, but you can still do it live. Don't be afraid to have, little cards. It's okay. We are human. We're not perfect. And that's fine. It also helps the nervousness, knowing that even if you forget, it's in there somewhere. If you just can let go, it will come.
Thank you so much, Sue. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been fun.